Thanks for tuning into this masterclass. Today I'm going to teach you how to set up your first beer goggles. Beer goggles is a way for you to get 2 consecutive turns on an opponent that starts the fight by surprise. To pull this off, we'll need to manipulate our opponent's primary statistic perception and secondary statistic sequence by using consumable items on him. Of vital importance, beer goggles will only be effective on the opponent that starts the fight by surprise, whether it's a one-on-one fight or whether it's a group fight. So don't even think about giving some random guy a bunch of beer to try to beer goggle him, because it'll only work on the opponent that started the fight by surprise. Another thing that's vitally important: beer goggles will not work if you start the fight. So if you start the fight and try to beer goggle somebody, it won't work. You can still drop their statistics by giving them consumables, but you won't get a double turn out of it. Some consumable items pack more bang for their buck than others. Items like healing powders, beer, booze, and gamma gulps, they are in the lesser category, but early game they work really good. They'll drop an opponent's perception by 1, and they'll drop their sequence by 2. Again, early game, that's really good. You're going to be threading the needle with most builds to beer goggle pretty regularly. Later in the game, you're going to need items that pack more bang for their buck. You're going to need items like Rot Gut and Triple X Rum, because each one of those consumables will drop your opponents by 2 points of perception and a whopping 4 points of sequence. That is incredible. Late game, it's an absolute must to use Rot Gut and Triple X Rum, because the statistics of the opponents that you'll face are going to be so high that 1 or 2 beers just isn't going to cut it. You'll probably have to use 2 Rot Guts on them. So let's cover this using a variety of examples that I have set up here. Starting in the Temple of Trials, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop 3 of these healing powders on the ground. And then I'm going to talk to Cameron. Cameron wants to test our worthiness to save the village. He's going to start this fight by surprise and charge in. Our perception is 7, and our sequence is 14. We multiply our perception by 2 to get 14. 2 times 7 is 14. Simple enough. What's unique to Cameron is that he has 7 perception just like us, but the developers gave him 15 points of sequence. So when the game finally does check to arrange the sequence order by checking sequence values, obviously Cameron's gonna go before us. So on the surprise turn that Cameron took, that happened irrespective of sequence and statistics. Now, this courtesy turn that we get right here always happens after the surprise attack, and it also happens irrespective of statistics and sequence. But still, we're going to get outchecked in sequence by Cameron if we don't do something. So what I discovered, I finally cracked this code after playing this game for like 23 years on and off, was that the game doesn't check sequence until after your courtesy turn. So if during your courtesy turn, you can use a consumable on your opponent to drop their statistics, then when you pass that turn or run out of action points, like right now, the game is going to rank all the participants in this fight, that's me and Cameron, based on their sequence, and whoever has the highest sequence is going to go after the courtesy turn. That's an amazing discovery here. And we just got 2 consecutive turns here. We literally knew nothing about this up until now. Let's take a look at another example that's unique to one-on-one fighting, though. Again, this particular case is unique to one-on-one fighting. And I'm going to show you why in just a second. So I dropped those consumables on the ground. Cameron's going to start the fight by surprise. I'll hit the spacebar button. Now the game is going to rank up sequence. Cameron goes first. I'm going to hit the spacebar button again. And we're going like ping pong, back and forth, back and forth. It'll go like this until one of us dies. But what's unique to a one-on-one fight, and only a one-on-one fight, is that deep in the fight, you can manipulate an opponent's statistics by feeding them a consumable you'll drop their sequence, and when you pass the turn, you will change the lineup. So this is another groundbreaking discovery. We had no idea that anything like this was possible. We didn't even know that you could do anything like this to begin with, and that you could do it deep in a fight and then rearrange it again. That's just nuts. But what I want to show you now is that if I hit the space bar button, we'll go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You can only use beer goggles once a fight. So I'll pick up another consumable, and once again, I'll use it on Cameron. So you'd think that I would get another double turn, but it only works once. Beer goggles only works once. Let's raise the stakes and try this a little bit deeper in the game where things get more difficult. I'm going to sneak. I'm using an editor build, so my stats are through the roof here. And I'm just going to walk up next to this guy so that he spots me. Okay, so this super mutant has now spotted me. So my perception in this editor build is quite phenomenal. My perception is 10 and my sequence is 20. Same with the super mutant. He's 10 and 20 as well. So I'll just use one beer on this super mutant and I'll sneak up here. And so long as none of these other super mutants pass a perception check to identify me, and so long as they don't then if they pass a perception check to identify me, then they'll have to pass another check whether they identify me as a friend or a foe, and then they'll have to pass a third check to make a determination of whether they should attack or withdraw. But so long as none of them are able to spot me while I'm sneaking with my 75% sneak, then I'll just remaining in combat after my courtesy turn with the one guy that I beer goggled, and I will get 2 turns on him. So just like that, I get a double turn on the guy that I beer goggled. But what I want you to see is that after this, see, this is different theory than with one-on-one fighting. So after I successfully beer goggled that guy, I'm going to give this guy a beer, and that guy a beer, and this guy a beer, and I'm going to hit the space bar button. And you would think that the same rule would apply with all these guys, that you'd shut them down and get double turns on them, but it just will not work. And then, so everybody's going to get their turn now, and then that's as far as we can use beer goggles. But you can get everybody drunk and then sneak out, and then trigger one of the other opponents to start an attack by surprise on you, and then you can beer goggle them again, rinse, lather, and repeat. You can keep doing it. So real quick, I'm just going to show you what wouldn't work. What wouldn't work would be, so I'll sneak out right here, and I'll walk right up next to this guy so that this super mutant spots me. So remember what I said. Regardless of whether it's a one-on-one fight or a group fight, the only person that you can beer goggle is the first guy that starts the attack by surprise. So if you were to say, if you were to rush up to this guy and then feed this guy a bunch of beer, you wouldn't get a double turn on this guy, and you wouldn't get a double turn on that guy. You wouldn't really have achieved anything. This is some seriously bona fide stuff that I'm super duper happy and proud of. Guys, try beer goggling in your own game. You're absolutely going to love it. Bye now.